advertising days when we were doing mock-ups and we were using that spray aerosol to kind of get stuff to stick to boards, the storyboards.
Oh,
She
yeah.
detailed all that.
Oh,
stuff for
gosh.
years and years and years, and now she's in.
Yeah,
So,
gosh.
yeah.
I don't know.
Is this the last one that you were with them?
No, we're making copies.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, feel free to walk around. Walk around. We've got
I thought I heard something.
8 minutes. So if you want to walk around,
I will.
I'll walk around.
I will come down here so I have somebody.
I'm gonna go
Well,
flush.
yeah,
Go
we
on.
have the
Beat the
link.
bushes.
Can you sign in? And then, of course, to minimize feedback, if you can go behind the wall. No problem. Sure, no problem. 2019. Our business didn't really take off. Our business did not take off till my wife went full time.
Where was she before?
District banking as a job coach.
Job coach.
Yeah, for special needs kids.
Wow.
Bill, let me know when you're ready.
Okay, try to find it. Yeah. Is it in the calendar?
Should be. In one of the emails as well. Give me to resend it to you.
Yeah, I'm on it. Goodbye.
Actually, it's right now, so what I did is I did what I had to do. On some sort of. So I need to, also, so I am going to do this sooner. Return date, go ahead and check it in, check it out. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, I'll take this seat.
Hey.
How are you, Bobby? You have not complained.
I saw you earlier there. I'm Vicky.
Hi, Vicky. I'm Carol Mervine. Nice to meet you.
Thank you for coming. I'm an agent too.
Good, where at?
I'm with Compass.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I'm recruited here for on behalf of AREAA. Are you familiar with AREAA? See, Bobby?
Oh, Asians in real estate.
No, I'm just saying,
Oh,
AREAA is Asian Real Estate Association of America.
Okay,
So-
do you know Shirley Steves? She's with Remax out of the file.
Oh,
She's been in the business for years. I bet she might be part of your group.
yeah, I think,
I would be surprised if she was.
we were just starting to branch out or expand our reach to the suburbs. Most of our events were held in the city,
Okay.
but now we're going around and making sure that everybody, but you, will be familiar with AREAA. So we are a nonprofit trade organization with about 17,000 members, 42 chapters across the country and Canada. And our focus is sustainable home ownership amongst the AAPI community, Asian American Pacific Islander community. So, and we do this by, lobbying and advocating for policies for the AAPI life. We have what we call a 3-point plan that we always tell our legislators, access to credit, because a lot of the Asian community are, they pay cash.
Yeah.
They're debt averse. My parents don't have a mortgage, right?
That's smart though.
Yeah.
We,
But that's more cultural rather than,
Yeah.
when we come here, then we rack up our credit cards. But so access to credit, just because most of the files of home buyers would be small files or thin files. That's what most lenders would say. So we don't have a lot of credit, and then language. If you're a Hispanic person, you can understand all the countries except Portuguese, right? But for Asians, each country has their own language. So that's something that we're trying to tell the bankers to put some type of a box where they, an Asian person like me or Bobby would be able to say, hey, I need a translator. So things like those, so that we can expand homeownership. Yeah, so the other one is fair housing, treat everybody fairly, whoever you are. So.
the lady that I told you about, Shirley Steves, pretty much all her clients are Asian.
Yeah.
Because she's in that community where, and they're members of the symphony and stuff, and
They're all in. Every time I go to a Korean house, there's a piano or a violin, any instrument, right?
Yeah.
So we're into music and we're into math or just education.
Do you guys maintain a list of, I'm finding that you work with different clients. They need different things, and then you refer, like.
Marcus, mic check. Can you hear us?
Depending on the client, I'll choose different attorneys. So like, I have a somewhat housebound client, and so there's an attorney that has, a roving notaries.
Yes.
Go around.
Yes.
So same thing, client,
Just in your inbox.
Yeah,
when you're done, yeah.
a guy, I went on a listing appointment yesterday where the person had two referrals, guy and woman, and she went with me. I know, but just, you can't. So I guess, keeping a list of people so it can kind of help them find their people.
Bill, mic check.
That's probably gonna.
But yeah,
And because you are the resource,
Yeah.
right? So most of the time, people come to us for language. Like, do you have a Mandarin speaking
that's
attorney?
totally, yeah, that's.
Do you have a lender who speaks Thai? So there's a lot of those that
Yeah.
usually people reach out to AREAA. So I think
Bill, mic check.
I got it. Yeah, we're good.
So, yeah, well, because we do get that, like, who do you know that speaks Thai?
Yeah.
Who do you know that
yeah,
is
yeah.
Mandarin?
Call AREAA Chicago.
Yeah, okay, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Sure is.
Devin is not on yet, but I'd like to start on time. We'll let him catch up if that's okay.
But yeah. Who?
Devin,
Devin,
from
okay.
Federal Reserve Bank of
Yeah,
Chicago.
yeah.
So Marcus is still also on. Marcus, I'm gonna pin you. You're one of the panelists. So I will pin you on. Oh, I already pinned you. So, is there any more people that Joan can? Is there any more people you can corral?
I would run the whole office.
And then we'll let Joan do it.
Yeah, go
That's
ahead, Joe.
Hi, Joan.
You and Cherie brought me in.
Yeah.
Is that her
That's
name?
some water.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
Yes, yes, thank you.
So there
I just
is.
love their bottles, so beautiful.
Oh, I know, right? It's just, you know,
Makes me want to be there.
that's what the whole reason.
There's a watch party at the Inspire office, which is another market center for KW, part of the E2P ecosystem. Bill, thank you for providing the run through. So my name is Bobby Taruk. Debbie, do you want to come up front?
Sure.
If you can, please. We'll do the intros later on, but part of our panelists, hopefully Devin Patterson will join us. He may be running late. He's with the U.S. Federal Reserve Bank of Chicago. He is the head of DEI. He's AVP for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion at the Federal Reserve Bank of Chicago. Marcus is also part of our panel. He is online, and we'll do the intros like I mentioned. And then there's a watch party at the Inspire office. Angel is also online with us. So we're going to go ahead and get started, if that's okay. Right now, before we do the intros, we will have just a quick run through with some protocol reminders for those online. Please mute your microphone when not speaking. I will try to pay attention to the chat here as well. Training room attendees, if you don't mind, put your phones on airplane mode. And then if there's any questions that we have not answered, you can DM me or email me, whichever way works. And then I know for a fact our team, Social Equity Task Force here at the KWPP, could really use some more volunteers. That rolls up to Deb. She's a leader, ALC leader for the Social Equity Task Force. So Bill, can you come up here? He is our sponsor for the day. Thank you, Bill, for your generosity for bringing lunch. They're in the backside of the training room, so please grab some while we have this session. Bill, can you share something about yourself? You can sit here.
Oh, sure.
Go ahead, sit here. Share about you and your product offerings.
Sure. Yes. My name is Bill Finley with Caliber Home Loans. Been in the business for 25 years. I know it doesn't look like it, right?
Started at 5.
Started at 5, you know. Thank you. Thank you. No, I first of all, I just want to thank all the agents right now. I mean, come on, it's a difficult world out there, but I really am inspired by what everybody's doing in this marketplace. It's inspiring me to see what y'all are doing. You have the hardest job out there. What can I offer you? I can offer you time. So time is your most valuable, important part of your day, and our digital application is second to none. So we invested about $40 million into our digital application, which will actually pull verification employment, pull your assets. So it takes away about 70% of the documentation. The other piece we offer is a full TBD, which means to be determined property, fully underwritten loan. That's winning over cash offers right now. So feel free to give me a call. I have my information here. I have cards, and yeah, kudos to you for all you all do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bill.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you, Bill.
I'm going to let, thank you, Bill. I'm going to let the people introduce themselves. So my name is Bobby Taruk. I think most of you know me, but again, I'm a volunteer for the Social Equity Task Force here at the KWPP. And this is really our second event. We have an event back in November, really our second event. And our goal is to have an event every single quarter. So I'll jump to Vicky, if you don't mind introducing yourself.
Thank you, first of all, Bobby, for inviting me here. My name is Vicky Silvano. I am have so many hats. I am the past national chair for AREAA, which is the Asian Real Estate Association of America. And I'm also part of the board of directors for the Chicago Association of Realtors, and I'm a Compass builder. So
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'm Deb Ritter. I'm a broker here with Keller Williams Premier Properties here at Glen, Ellyn. I've been a broker here for the past 10 years, and I'm on the Agent Leadership Council for this office. And specifically, I'm tasked with leading the office with our diversity, equity, inclusion efforts that Keller Williams International is driving. So, and to underscore what Bobby said, we're, as with any ALC committee, you're always welcome to join one midstream, but we'd love to have more people join us for DEI and social equity. And we've got some interesting resources available to us to do a good job. So we'd love to have you join us.
Okay, thank you. And Marcus, we'll jump to you if you don't mind unmuting.
Yes, I'm Marcus Rembert. I am 8 years in real estate, 7 with KW, co-chair of the social equity group in the Naperville Plainfield Center. And yeah, I'm just happy to be here, coming to you from the Valley of the Sun, Phoenix. So thank you guys for just allowing me to participate virtually as well.
Hey, Marcus,
Yes.
this is Devin Patterson.
Marcus, I
I got
apologize, our audio here in the training room is not working. We'll come back to you. We'll
Okay.
get someone in here pretty soon. So do apologize, Marcus. We'll get this fixed in here. We'll get the discussion going in here. I think, Vicky, we have to, as part of the baselining process, I think we have to baseline. I think we have to have a common understanding of what diversity, equity, and inclusion is. So I know you wear a lot of personas, you wear a lot of hats between CAR and advocacy, former national chair of AREAA, and also your visit to Compass. So even just pick one persona and help us define diversity, equity, and inclusion.
I'll probably pick, being part of the community here, I'll probably be with the Chicago Association of Realtors, and obviously work my way through the AREAA community as well. It's really amazing what the Chicago Association of Realtors has done as far as DEI is concerned. We all have talked about diversity, equity, and inclusion, but we really don't know what it was until more recently, right? I think COVID has helped us do that. And with the Asian hate and George Floyd situation, everybody started talking about, how can we do include everybody, diversity, meaning including all the different, not just race, but culture, age, backgrounds, and all the other components of being diverse, right? Inclusion to me would be, again, all the different races, as we know, we can't exclude anybody, but making sure that they are also, when you include them, make sure that they are engaged, right? Because sometimes they say, you bring them to DI is bringing them to the dance, but making sure that you dance with them as well.
Absolutely.
Right. So that's pretty much what what DI should mean to everybody. I see some of your sayings. You change your thinking and you change the world, right? That really encompasses what DI should be.
Yeah.
Real estate has evolved over time, and so I hope it's to the better, and it has improved the way we communicate, the way we help our customers and clients, and the way we live in the community.
Yeah, I agree with you. I actually, I think that it's something that we want to do to not only empower colleagues that we work with, but to also make clients, potential clients, know what's available to them, because they might be quietly sitting back there thinking they don't qualify for some some reason, and it's, you know, being more inclusive and letting them know that there, you know, that there's options for them as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just going to point our audio output to this device right here. I think Devin joined in. Devin, welcome, and Marcus will come back to you. Devin, if you don't mind introducing yourself, really, we will lean on you as a great resource, being at your AVP at the bank, with Federal Reserve Bank of Chicago. So if you don't mind introducing yourself.
Yes, Bobby, thank you. And sorry for my delay. I work for a central bank, and sometimes Zoom and other technologies get to us and have a hard time getting through, but thank you for your patience. So good afternoon, everybody. I'm Devin Patterson. So I am Assistant Vice President of Diversity, Equity, Inclusion at the Federal Reserve Bank of Chicago. And so with that role, I have oversight over our internal diversity and inclusion efforts, supplier diversity, and also our community engagement and community partnerships. So thank you for having me here.
Okay, hopefully you can hear it a little bit better. Marcus, if you don't mind introducing yourself.
Yes, Marcus Rembert. I'm been in real estate 8 years, 7 of those with Keller Williams. I am in addition to co-heading up a real estate team in Keller Williams, I'm also the co-chair of the social equity committee for the Naperville Market Center and the Plainfield Business Center.
Okay, thank you, Marcus. Devin, we were just trying to baseline our discussion on a definition of diversity, equity, and inclusion. This was the takeoff from the Keller Williams documentation, but help us with the bank's definition of diversity, equity, and inclusion, if you will.
Yeah, so these are great. I mean, these are spot on. I think at the bank, and again, I'll paraphrase a bit. You know, the diversity conversation is certainly rooted in underrepresentation and demographic diversity, and trying to achieve cognitive diversity through that demographic diversity. We really do believe that we have to have all groups at the table, and so we really do make that distinction in our definition of diversity, and then equity. Which we actually, I will say, we just recently integrated equity more formally into our DEI efforts. We were D&I for a long time, and so this is a fairly new definition to our organization. But really, it's about meeting people where they are for us, and really understanding that fair doesn't mean equal. And so we're still working through that right now. A lot of conversations, a lot of questions around what's equitable and what's fair, and making sure that people know that it's not about them losing anything, but just meeting those where they are and giving people with things that they need to succeed in our organization. And then inclusion, I really love this definition here around and specifically welcomed and having a strong sense of belonging and being able to bring your authentic self to work, but also feel valued on the job as your whole self. But we really align to these definitions that you have here at Keller Williams. So these are great.
Thank you. Hey, Marcus, was there something that wasn't covered? Do you have your own perspective as well from your side?
You know what? I just want to piggyback on that and say that even in these definitions, as Devin mentioned, these are great definitions. The one thing that it doesn't, you won't see in any of these descriptions is the word agree, right? And the reason I bring that up is because I think so many times we feel like in order for us to have progress or movement forward, that we all have to agree with one another's stance or perception. And that's not necessarily the case. That would be ideal. But I think we just have to agree at a high level that we all feel like progress in moving forward and making sure everybody has is included is the right thing. And so, you know, and the reason I bring that up is because so many times I heard people say, well, I don't know if I agree with that. Yeah, but do you understand it? And so in these definitions, you don't see the word agree. And there are many of things like being in real estate. I'm sure everybody who's listening to this in real estate, we have clients, especially in this marketplace, where we don't agree with our client's decision, but we represent them at a higher level. And we have an ethics code that we have to live by. And I think that's important to underscore here.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I wanted to add on that I think of all the three letters here, for me, equity is probably the most important because it's really giving equal access to those opportunities, to those leadership opportunities or any other opportunities are out there. When you have that equal opportunity for all members, for all our community, I think the inclusion and diversity comes into play. So I think equity, having the same level of access to those opportunities would probably be the most important for me.
Yep, absolutely. So we'll move on to the next topic here. So Deb, just looking at your LinkedIn profile, you have the history of business analysis, and Marcus as well has a background in project management. So do I. So in the business analysis process, we always have a baseline, and we have this notion of present state and future state. And we think about different, when I talk about even systems and models, we talk about maturity level. So co-worker Devin, Fred Martin, gave me this, provided this documentation in Deloitte's maturity model around DEI. So I wanted to use this as a framework in our discussion. It's a little bit esoteric, really really esoteric in my mind, but I think it's a good foundation. And Devin, you probably have this memorized, this particular model. So I'm going to talk about this is just my perspective, okay? I feel that between our market center to the regional level to even the KWRI office in Austin, it seems like we're a pendulum, Deb, between level 1 and level 3. Let me give you an example. Level 3, we have Julia Lachey, Israel, at the corporate office, really evangelizing DEI. But here also, I feel like we swing between compliance and programmatic. We have these events, but we don't have someone in our market center really having DEI, but we have someone at the Atlantic regional level organizationally. We have a certain level of maturity. So I feel like we're in a pendulum, is what I'm thinking. Now I'll turn it over to you, Vicky, with your different personas again, between CAR and your Compass business, and then your advocacy as well with AREAA. Where would you define between Chicagoland maybe, or even Chicago as a community? Where do you see our practice in this model?
For CAR, Chicago Association of Realtors, is probably between programmatic and integrated. Not so much on the integrated part, but we had this program with CAR where we initiated a program called Industry Partners. And the Industry Partners was created probably about 6-7 years ago by the previous CEO, Ginger Downs. But the current CEO, Michelle Mills-Clement, she probably put it up a notch because with the Industry Partners Initiative, what we do is Chicago Association of Realtors reaches out to help out all the nonprofit organizations like AREAA, obviously NAREP, which is the African American group, the LGBT Alliance, LGBTQ Alliance. We have the other organizations like the VA Rep for the veterans, and the other one, FIABC, which is the international group, as well as the Realtors to the Rescue, which they cater to saving the animals. So all these groups are called industry partners, and each one of us are being given, FaceTime with our members. They give us 2 pages in the car magazine, which comes out every quarter, and talk about all of the industry partners, their initiatives and programs and events every quarter. They also give us training and they give us funding. And obviously each one of us are always asking for funding, like sponsorships and all that, so that we can run our events as easily and as seamless as possible.
Right.
So I think the programmatic is there, the leaders, the Chicago Association of Realtors, all our board of directors are pretty much has have the gamut of all, types of, we have Asians, I'm one of them, we have Hispanic, we have African Americans, we have white. So all of us are really, a good model for other realtor associations out there, because this is who we service. These are the clients that we service. We have the Hispanic community, which is a huge community.
Absolutely.
We have Asian community. So a lot of these are also integrated in some of our businesses, right?
Yeah.
So we're, as I said, we're probably going between programmatic, but more leader-led and integrated, because the programs are there already.
Right.
The other thing that CAR has done is what we call listening tours. Listening tours is the CEO and other staff of the Chicago Association of Realtors go to east, west, north side of the city.
Right.
And introduce all the programs that CAR has for the benefits, their member benefits. So it's really great to be part of that association. And some of you guys are part of that association, right? A lot of KWs in the city. So the maturity level for me, for the city, is a little bit, faster route than probably some other groups.
Absolutely. Let's go in this order. Let's go to Devin and then Marcus and then Deb. Devin, really, as a bank and a quasi-government institution, I would imagine your maturity level at the bank in terms of DEI initiatives is pretty mature. I would imagine you would be at the integrated level. Is that fair?
Well, let me just say, I should have put this disclaimer out that the views expressed today are my own, but not necessarily the views of the Federal Reserve Bank of Chicago or Board of Governors. But so we track to this maturity model at the bank, and we've been honest with ourselves. So I can't say we're integrated yet, and I'll get to that. But I think we've been on the journey for a very long time as a central bank, and we were stuck, I would say, in the mud on programmatic for a very long time as well, with our ERGs, our employee resource groups, really serving as our only eyes and into DEI and systemic issues in the community. And for those who are courageous enough, the business lines. But honestly, that push from the ERGs, and in some cases, really wake-up calls, really helped us catapult ourselves into the level 3, the leader-led phase, where I believe we are now, because we now have a formal DEI team. So we've invested in DEI. We have a 3-year strategy. So we've been transparent about what we want to accomplish over the next few years. And I think most importantly, what kind of solidifies us in level 3 is we have firmly more accountability at the leadership level, all the way from the top to our president, to our executive committee, from a personal standpoint, which is a key for level 3, but also from the standpoint that we are focusing on the areas in which we know those leaders are impacting. So like inclusion, like talent management. And so really the thing that we're waiting on, I should say, is part of the DEI is the diversity. We definitely know that our representation is symptomatic of where we are in our other areas of equity and inclusion. And so I would say we need to move the needle as it relates to diverse representation at the top of the Federal Reserve Bank of Chicago, which is one of our goals on our 3-year strategy. And I think once we see that movement, until we see that movement, I don't know if we can say that we're in integrated phase, but we are tracking to it and hope to get there soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. Can you give us, I saw in your bio, you did have an initiative when COVID-19 hit. So if you could spend about maybe 4 minutes about what you did when COVID-19 hit and how did that impact your stakeholders from a DEI perspective?
Yeah, so great question, Bobby. So I'm a banker by trade, and so I most recently ran the discount window for the Federal Reserve Bank of Chicago before moving into DEI more formally. But there's a lot of correlation with what happened with the program, the PPP program, which everybody is familiar with, is what I was in charge of running for Chicago in terms of the lending function for the states that we oversee in the Midwest. And, outside of just, operational activities, we obviously know that a lot of things came out of the PPP program related to the communities that were impacted. And I saw a lot of that firsthand come through, with the banks, with the lenders, with the companies looking to borrow as I was managing the program. And really, and it became a social issue. And I think that, as a Federal Reserve bank, not all the time, but sometimes those things kind of hit us in that aspect with our dual mandate of price stability and maximum employment. We can sometimes get stuck in those operations, but I would say that was one of the first times that work really reflected the community in terms of the systemic issues and biases that came about.
Yep, absolutely. Marcus, I know your market center is doing something from a DEI perspective. I don't know how long this has been going on, but you're doing home buyer seminar, first time home buyer seminar, but with a DEI focus on that program. Tell us a little bit more about that and tell us where you think your market center or your business is in from this maturity model, if you can.
Yeah, for sure. So I'll start with the maturity model. So I think we're at that transition point actually on this graphic here. So we kind of, and you used the word earlier, Bobby, the pendulum. So I think we do swing between being programmatic and leader-led. As Deb can probably attest to, because she and I will attend the regional calls as well from a social equity committee standpoint, there's still some market centers within the KW franchise system that are not participating holistically in social equity or DEI for that matter. And I think we'd be naive to see that that's not going to be a challenge just because some of our market centers are located in areas where some people may not feel there's a need for DEI. All right, so that combined with some of the initiatives that we're doing from our market center and Innovate as well. So we pretty much, as anybody on this call with KW knows, we believe heavily in R&D, rip off and duplicate. So the Innovate Market Center actually started this Path to Home Ownership series last year, and they fine-tuned it. So we just kind of picked the ball up and run with it from there. So as you said, Bobby, we had our first of 4 quarterly sessions, and we held it actually in the Bolingbrook Library because we wanted it to be some place where the community felt like, is easily accessible and a place that kind of represents the community. One of the thought processes we said is having it maybe at our Naperville Market Center might be a little bit intimidating for someone who has never owned a home and they're thinking, oh, I have to go to Naperville to hear about this. And, I can't afford Naperville. So we just kind of want to put ourselves in the shoes of the people we're looking to serve. And so, no, it's very informative. It's just basically we're taking them on a journey. Hey, what does home ownership mean to you? And we have vendors participating in it. And we just make sure that the vendors are there to speak from more of an educational standpoint than just trying to sell their service to individuals. So no, we're definitely, this is, we're playing the long game with this, and we're very, very, excited. We know there's some challenges ahead of us, but we all, I'm sure we all went into this knowing that there'll be some challenges to overcome.
Absolutely. So Deb, I'll turn to you. What's your perspective, either of our market center perspective, or even in your own business, or initiatives at the MAR level and Mid-Atlantic level as well?
Okay, yeah, I would.
Give us your take on it.
Well, I would say I'm with Marcus as far as the Mid-American region level status. We're in a transition point. And I think in reality, with anything that you do, there's always a pendulum in whatever aspect of your business, what you're going to do, you swing back and forth. So I think that's just a fact of life. But what I love about this maturity model is it's a good way to kind of visualize the progress that and recognize where we need to keep going. I'm just going to be honest with you. I think locally, Keller Williams Career Properties is probably in the middle of level 2 programmatic. And what do you think, Bobby? You kind of agree?
Yeah, I think I will agree with you on that one. I think I don't have visibility to everything that's going on at Janine's level and at Kurt's level.
Yeah.
You probably have more visibility to that. I think we are crawling at that stage.
Mhm.
I would agree with that.
I think, yeah. So, I'm going to be honest with you, I'm fairly new to this. But the thing that's so intriguing to me is I've participated in 2 DEI courses that Keller Williams International's offered, and it's really a wonderful. I can't express enough how great those classes are. They're really not necessarily classes; they're masterminding kind of sessions. Would you agree, Marcus? In general, I think so. And you've attended, Bobby?
Color real estate, and then I think that's the only one.
Okay. Well, they're very interactive, and so those of you within Keller Williams who have not taken those, I encourage you guys to sign up and take those courses because they're really interesting. For me, as a realtor who's getting out there into the workforce for the last 10 years as a realtor, I am meeting a lot of people that I normally wouldn't meet in my walk of life up till now. And so I wish I'd gotten in this business a lot earlier because I love meeting different people. But I realize some people don't relate to me, and where I come up against them, I might be accidentally misunderstanding them. And so I as just a human and someone who wants to serve, care about how I come off on people of other cultures and want to be respectful of where they're coming at, and just because it's just interesting to meet other people, get to know them. But then I also care about if I'm serving them well and if I'm meeting them where they're at. So we kind of, before the meeting started, we were kind of having an offline conversation about just how do you find service providers like attorneys and home inspectors and other people who know the language of the client that you're working with, who just understand, and can help them do that. I found myself in situations where I'm like, I'm a little worried I'm not the right realtor for this situation because I'm working with in this case, a Chinese family, and the father doesn't speak English and the kids do, but the kids are like 18 and younger. And that's who the kids were my clients, in fact. So we got through that, but I was worried about how I was serving those folks. And I think ultimately it worked out, but it was a challenge.
One of the solution would be to reach out to AREAA.
I know. And so at the time I was in the weird about it. So now I know.
So one of the myths actually for AREAA, which is the Asian Real Estate Association of America, is that you have to be Asian to be a member. And that's a wrong myth.
Yeah.
Okay. If you look at our current chapter leadership, our immediate past president is as white as can be, Peter Dion. Peter is a lender from Guaranteed Rate, but he led the chapter, successfully. Our 2024 national president is also Italian. So you can't say that, to be a member of AREAA would just be Asian. But that's where we say we include everybody.
Yeah.
But that's not to say that they're not qualified either.
Right.
They are as qualified as anybody.
Yeah.
So the inclusion part, we say we just don't walk the walk, but we just don't talk the talk, but we walk the walk.
Yeah.
Right. In all parts of AREAA and even CAR. So, yeah.
Yeah, so from my standpoint, I feel like I know what I would do next time. Is I would engage somebody from AREAA, say, can you help us out? So we're making sure that in this case, the family, the kids, and the family, and their financial advisor who also only spoke Chinese, we're all looking on the same place.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We're going to go a little bit off script from this PowerPoint presentation, but we'll go Vicky and then up to our online panelists as well. Looking at the second page of the maturity model, Vicky, let me ask you this, maybe even just from a CAR perspective, but it doesn't have to be, where do you feel that CAR, and also as a practice, where do we need to be from this maturity model? Just looking at this.
I think with CAR, as I said earlier, we have a little bit more of a we did a head start much earlier than pretty much everybody else in the industry, such that Illinois Realtors is somehow emulating us.
Wow.
NAR is also emulating us, reaching out to the industry partners that I talked about earlier. So that from that standpoint alone, I think, there's business leaders of all the, CAR division. Tommy Choi from KW was the vice president of NAR, and you can tell that he has represented himself as an Asian person, has represented KW as part of an owner of KW in the city. And so I think from a maturity level, we are right there on the leader-led, leveling the playing field with everybody else in the community.
Absolutely. On my part, I won't speak too long because I want to hear from our panelists as well. From our part, I think I would love to see our market center within the next 12 months, that no pressure on you, but to be at leather.
We had a good party though.
To be at levered position where we're actually leveling the playing field for all employees, and not just market center employees, but actually those team leaders that have larger teams, like maybe Susie's team or the Jonathan and Kenny team in here. So I would love to see them at that level, and including, of course, our market center to be leader-led. But I want to hear, Devin, where at least maybe in 12 months or 2 years, where does the bank hope to be in this maturity curve?
Yeah, I'm gonna just take the page straight out of our DEI strategy. So we have a 3-year strategy, and so I think where we would like to be, or I should say, one data point is to increase our executives of color by at least 3 percentage points. We feel like there's a gap there as it relates to reflecting the community that we serve and really trying to produce the type of policies and support for our communities and our financial institutions to meet our dual mandate of maximum employment and stable prices. And so I think moving the needle there, as I said earlier, I think would be a lagging indicator to us that we are in the integrated phase. because again, that would mean that we, from a retention standpoint, we're doing the things we need to do to keep our executives of color. Our pipeline from a manager standpoint is pretty good. But we really want to shoot for the not for the stars, but shoot for the top, because we do think there's also studies have shown there's some longitudinal impacts when you see people that look like you that are at those executive levels. You automatically feel a better sense of belonging, and you can see yourself 3 to 5 to 6 years into the future. And again, the more diversity that we have is going to impact the type of policies that we can internally, practices and policies that we can create for more equitable workplace.
Absolutely. The 3% metric seems doable in my mind. Of course, I'm not a banker, but what about middle managers? I love the notion about coming in really from the top, because they can champion and evangelize diversity, equity, and inclusion. But what about middle managers? Has that been on the radar from a policy or a goal perspective?
Absolutely, Bob. That's a great question. I think people first saw our strategy, and that was the question. They're like, where are the managers? And we are keeping our eye on it for sure, as a pipeline to increase that representation at the top. But what we're finding, and again, and I will probably get to this a little later, we really rooted ourselves in the data for this one, Bobby, and it really showed as we got up in the organization, the trail off was more significant at that officer level. But we know that we have to keep an eye on our pipeline, because in this environment in particular, we are losing a lot of people. Everybody is in the environment that we're in now. And so from a retention standpoint, I would say we are prioritizing our middle managers more so than looking to do anything, I guess, significantly different than we're doing now in terms of bringing folks in. But from a priority standpoint, we know that we wanted to address the most significant gap, and that was at the executive level. Does that help?
Yeah, thank you for sharing, Devin. Marcus, will come to you. How about if you could speak about infinity playing field, or I don't know if you want to loop in labor in there, but how about infinity, and also in your business, where does infinity intend to be maybe the next 12 to 24 months from from this maturity curve?
Yeah, so I'll speak to in our business, so as being one of the only, teams that are led by, 2 Black agents, there's a sense of responsibility we have, and also not just responsibility DEI wise, but also, fiscally to the bottom line. And so we just trying to, make sure we're always being cognizant of those 2 things. So 12 to 24 months from now, we see not only where we want to help grow the number of, home ownership rate amongst underrepresented groups, especially, as Gary Keller said, with the Black community being the first domino. We also want to make sure, and this is something that Devin alluded to, that representation in every level of KW, in Naperville, in Plainfield, that we have some consistent representation. So, at the MCA or the market center accountant level, and maybe not in that role today, but have we identified some people in the pipeline that we could, or on the bench, as a term we use, market center ownership. We don't have a lot of diversity at that level at all. And so that's something that, I've talked to a few people about on both sides too, because also when we talk within our groups, I also, talk to agents about, hey, there's some things that you can, go after, just ask about what it takes. But I think it is important, though, that we at a leadership level focus on representation, because that matters. And I forget who it was, whether it was Devin or Vicky, who made references that, a lot of times, and Gary Keller made reference to this when we first started the social equity committee. He said that they had never had a Black applicant at the Keller Williams international level, headquarters level. And that spoke volumes to me, because I know, obviously being Black, that, that's something that maybe for whatever reason, Black folks felt like, oh, that wasn't something for them, or wasn't a safe space for them. So he then put together this committee. And like you said earlier, Bobby, Julia Lachey does a great job. And I think we'll see the benefits of that down the road. And I think that's just it. Not getting caught up in a microwave society where we want, instant results, and just making sure that we're at least moving forward. So.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you, Marcus. Then we'll turn to you. How about for you? Where do you see, I can't remember if you already answered this question. There's been so much information, so much great information as well. Where do you see our market center from 12 to 24 months? And maybe you can talk about your business as well.
Well, I'm just a single agent, so I am growing, and I'm working with a virtual assistant, so I would love my business to grow and be able to, just sitting here thinking, what more can we do as agents here to create opportunities for all ages, but kind of create some opportunities where we're bringing folks in that might think that they can't, that they don't fit in here, or they don't, whatever, I don't know, but I would hate for anybody to think that, but I suppose people do. So it's one of those things where I'd love to just see how we could make it much more explicitly inclusionary. But in the next 12 to 24 months, I would love to see Kim be definitely in the leader-led category, gearing towards integrated.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you, Deb. We're going to jump to, we have about 12 minutes left. We're going to jump to the page with Bork and Dylan's proposed powerful actions. And then at the tail end, if we still have time, we'll cover really specific actionable items based on the GPS, social equity from the KW perspective. So we'll just go around the table. Maybe we'll just pick one that jumps out at you and maybe elaborate on that one. So I'll let you scan it really quick. Number one, maybe I can just kickstart this conversation. So progress will take a cultural reset. So I think that for us to move the needle, so to speak, to Devin's point about diversity, equity, and inclusion, this is not, and Marcus also alluded to this earlier, this is not a one and done deal. It's not put something in a microwave, a minute later, hey, we're at the very mature level for diversity, equity, and inclusion. I think just like most anything else, I think that these kinds of initiatives really have to start from the top. And that's the reason why, Devin, I'm not very surprised that you mentioned the 3% of executives is a targeted number for diversity. I'm not very surprised at that, because I feel that for great movements to really move forward and progress, it really has to start from leadership. And it's also people at the front lines as well. They need to be evangelizing as well this type of conversation. So hopefully that makes sense. But to me, this is a huge undertaking. Progress will take some time. It'll take a different cultural mindset from every single person in this room and in this market center. So that's my take on it.
I'll probably take number 3, which is to build inclusive leadership capabilities, because as we've said, it's really from the top. I was reading yesterday in preparation for this event that there are more named CEOs named David than women CEOs. So that was interesting. There's only like 3% women CEOs and about 5% named David as CEOs. So it's not just really just in us, right? It's really making an intentional effort to identify those leaders who can take on leadership roles, or if they're not yet leaders,
Correct.
mentor them, from the top, to mentor them and make them as part of a growing community of leaders down the line. We just recently had our AREAA's Global Luxury Summit, and we just inducted an African-American from Houston, we're talking about Texas, I'm from Dallas, actually, an African-American AREAA Foundation chair. So it's really looking at those types of initiatives and really intentional focus on the people that we work with, the people who will lead the organization, and making sure that everybody's included and you can identify those potential leaders down the line.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you for that. Devin, we'll go to you. What jumps out at you for this from this author's powerful actions from the Delight study, either personal or bank perspective?
Yeah, I'm an economics guy.
Sure.
So yeah, so actually nudge number 5 stuck out to me, honestly. The nudging for rewiring processes and practices. And the reason why, for me, look, we know that everybody personally is on this DEI journey at different levels,
Right.
and it takes some time. It's called a journey for a reason. It takes some time to change people's minds, and even longer in situations to change people's hearts around the impacts of DEI. And so, because of that, I think it's imperative and critical that we really give ourselves the foundation and guardrails to make this change until we get there, or as we work to get there. And those processes, and practices that you have as an organization, and looking at those with an equity lens and asking, are there any systemic issues, like people maybe not applying for international positions, that are going on within those policies, and really try to sift those out. I think it's a step that we don't often think about, but again, it takes a long time to change people's hearts and minds. And I think giving ourselves a shot at doing that starts with the processes and practices, because a lot of times the people making these decisions, it's a personal decision. Even if you have all the training, all the cultural competency development, and sometimes you need the guardrails and the foundation to give your organization, to give yourself to push through those biases, the best shot at making the right decision at the right time.
Yep, absolutely. So for you, Marcus, what jumps out at you?
Well, Devin kind of stole mine, but I go to number 2, which is create a shared purpose and meaning by broadening the narrative to diversity of thinking and inclusion, because I think that kind of encompasses all 7. And the thing, Vicky gave an example of AREAA, that's not just for Asians, and they just elected someone that's not of Asian ethnicity to chair position. And, this is meaningful to me. Like Deb, my very first client in real estate was an Asian woman who barely spoke any English. And that was very educational for me, because one, it told me that even if there is one language that people who are, whether they're buying a home, car, or whatever, that they want to be cared for. And so they made me that I had to be patient and make sure that she felt cared for, because whether or not we spoke the same language from a tongue perspective, you can still know if you're safe with someone. That crosses cultural boundaries, right? So one, and also when it comes to DEI, what always kind of strikes me is that by any group not being represented and not being able to participate, it actually hurts everybody. So think about the fact that Black folks feel limited from being able to participate in real estate. Well, that hurts everybody financially, actually. Think about the number of banks that can be making, more profit. Thinking about the number of neighborhoods, how much farther along we could be. If there's someone in the Asian community that doesn't feel like, that they can't safe to participate in, in a capitalist society, that ultimately hurts us all. And it's the exact opposite of why, anything that America has done well, it's been because there's been contribution across the landscape from various ethnicities. So
Absolutely. So we have about 4.5 minutes left, about 4 minutes left. I think we'll go Vicky and then Devin. Vicky, what's your message and what's your call to action to people here and then people watching online as well?
Thank you again, Bobby, for letting me in here with you. I'm very honored to be part of this discussion. My quick message to everybody in the realtor family: go to events that you're not familiar with. That's probably the basic thing that you can do and learn other communities of color, not just Asian people, but go and look at all the different, non-for-profit communities that we have.
Right.
The NAREVs, the AREAs, the NAREVs, the vets, the LGBT community. I think that's the basic thing that we can all do and start learning from that. So that's my quick message for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to save this MP4 file and then make it available to all of the KW E2P market centers. So we'll go to Devin. Devin, what's your final message and call to action? And I think we'll have time for you, Marcus. We'll do it that way.
Yeah, I think this is
Devin,
my. Yeah, I was just gonna say, well, thank you again for having me as well. Start with yourself and challenge your own biases. Seek the truth, seek self-awareness. There's going to be a lot of efforts at your organization around moving the needle, but ultimately looking within yourself and starting with yourself and seeking how you can be a better professional and a better person will help the ecosystem of diversity, equity, inclusion. So that's my call to action for myself and also those of you listening today.
Yep. How about for you, Marcus? Well, what's your message and your call to action?
You know what? I think choose progress over safety. So as Vicky said, try going to different organizations. That's how I learned. My wife, who's a Black educator, she sits on the DEI board at the Holocaust Museum. I can't tell you how much of an educational process that's been both ways. So I say seek progress over safety because a lot of the things that we subscribe to have been because we play it safe. Well, I'm not going to go there because I'm just going to play it safe. I'm not going to talk to this person about that. I don't want to offend anyone. Now, you don't want to offend anyone, but as long as your intent is in the right place, be okay with saying, hey, I didn't know that. That was my bad. That I learned something today.
Yeah, I love that. I'll turn this over to you, Dev. Final message.
I'm on board with what Devin and Marcus and Vicky have said. I can't say it any better. It's being inquiry. It's so, this world is so full of interesting people to meet along the way. Just be an inquiry and get to know them and ask honest questions. Sometimes you get, like Marcus said, sometimes you're gonna go, my bad. But I kind of want to ask that question because that helps me get through some understanding that I didn't have. So
absolutely. Well, thank you, Deb. Well, my call to action would be volunteer for Deb's team. As we have discussed, it takes a lot of people to move the needle on this effort. So that's my call to action. And Cherie, I'll work with you. Continue the messaging on call for volunteers. And again, our minimum goal is to have one activity every single quarter. Yeah. And hopefully we'll be able to achieve that for 2022. So.
And those listening from other offices, join your DEI groups. They're amazing people that are doing this.
Absolutely. Well, that ends our discussion today. Thank you again for joining. I also want to end on time and start on time. So just like in realtors that are good, we want to be on time. So thank you so much, everyone. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you guys for coming.
If you want to be a member of AREAA,
I'm serious.